And thank you for joining Real Talk. I'm actually in downtown Sarasota today. I've got a family member who's up at Sarasota Memorial Hospital and stepped out and really to kind of say goodbye and hello uh, to a new adventure, goodbye to an old adventure, and a hello to a new adventure with Josh's new position. But I'm going to give Josh a minute to introduce himself and to kind of give an overview of how he became part of Northport and the future of Northport. Actually, go ahead, Josh.
Well, thanks for having me. Hopefully you can hear me.
I can.
So just we'll jump to the current and we'll back up a little bit. So I've accepted a new position with Sarasota County government as their assistant director of communications. So I'll be starting there next week. So that's exciting. Mixed emotions for sure. I love it here. It's a great job, great people, great city, great community. But this was an opportunity for career growth for me. So that is taking place. And how we got here, I don't know if we can pack it into an hour, but so I worked for ABC7 for 13 years in Sarasota, but I covered Northport, got to know the people down here. So when the city put back in 2015, when they put out their first ever official public information officer for the whole city, both police, fire, and overall city, I applied for that. It was a perfect transition from what I did and being transparent and trusted with information in the community and giving it to folks. So I was fortunate. It was the greatest career move I ever made. Going from the TV world to being the public information officer here. And then that grew as the city's grown, became the city's first communications manager and was over all of the outreach and communications for the city. And then our great city manager that we have now got here and was like, you're doing too much. I mean, no other city really had a PIO handling so much stuff. So he said, pick something. And my passion has always kind of been in law enforcement. So I made the move to come over here, back to the PD where I initially started. And then I became the city's first chief of staff for the police department and PIO. So I had a handful of hats. And so I've been doing that for basically the last 2 years. And again, this opportunity came up with the county, and good news is I get to still serve Northport as well as the rest of the county. So not necessarily going anywhere, but certainly my day-to-day will change quite a bit.
You know, I said this to you earlier that there's good and there's bad to this. And I actually, in listening to you, if people were to read the narrative I put out, our greatness here in the city is all about driving things forward and growth and trying to be special and inspiring people to be more. And I am so happy for you. That growth for you over time has helped our city. You've been a huge part of making us relevant. And I mean that because you had the ABC voice. We didn't have any contact with that prior to you. So you brought a level of communications that we never saw.
Well, I just had to not screw it up, John. I mean, the city's growing with or without me, obviously. And yes, I think there has been some professional involvement, there, but it was going to happen one way or the other. And I think this community here, Northport, let's put it this way. So when I got here in 2015, the city didn't even have social media,
Right.
and it was first and foremost on my list. I was actually follower number one for both the city and the police department's Facebook pages. And now we have the largest social media presence of any government agency in our entire region. I mean, I think on the PD side, we're up to close to 180,000 followers on there. And to see that grow and then go past all of the other agencies and continue. And the reason for that is that people who live in Northport, they want their information. They care about what's going on in the city. And we have limited coverage for some of the things. We have people like yourself, and certainly the newspaper does a very good job. But we kind of we're in the Bermuda Triangle of like TV media coverage where nobody comes, no matter any of the good stuff we're doing. But we have a homicide, and now we get it from Tampa and we get it from Fort Myers, and they all come. Now, some of the agencies have stepped up and are covering more day-to-day stuff, but we've kind of had to be our own media outlet to a degree. So certainly having some of that experience under my belt coming in here was helpful for that. I think we're in a very good situation currently with me leaving. We have Miss Kammerer who'll be taking over for the public information duties for the police department. And honestly, I'm not just saying this. She's I could not ask for a better protege to come in, and we are in very good hands with her drive and her skill set when it comes to the next generation of social media and outreach. And sometimes I got to dial her back a little bit, but just because she's so eager to get stuff out and use different tools. And government can be an interesting animal when it comes to the tools you can use. So very good hands here. Obviously, you got the whole city's communications team over there and what they do. So it'll only be better, honestly.
I tend to agree with you. When you set the standard, I think we're a lot alike. I don't set the standard to be the end all be all, and I don't think you do either. I think you set the standard so that people can drive through and put their stamp on the future, because it's ever changing, and I know that because look at what you're doing. Your career is advancing,
and you evolve professionally in a sense of early on it was like what awards can we win, and what can in you take self-pride in that. And I'm at a situation now like Brittany this year was the communicator of the year through the Florida Municipal Communicators Association, which is through the Florida League of Cities. And I took more pride in her winning that award than any award that I've won or we've won over the years. And to help her accomplish that and get to where she's at, she did it on her own, but maybe with a little guidance here and in there. Again, that was actually probably the most rewarding thing of my career here. So, and I don't know that I always would have thought that, early on. So that's been good. So we're in a good situation. I'll tell you, overall, it's very mixed emotions. The hardest thing is leaving the people here within the police department. Chief Garrison is just an unbelievably fantastic leader. Chris Morales, the deputy chief, nobody cares about this department, this community more than him. And to have to kind of I spend more probably time with these people than my own blood. And, you commit your life to this job. You're on call 24/7, 300. I've been on call every second of every day for the last 11 years. And it can wear on you a little bit. But again, walking away from my family here is definitely the hardest thing. If there was a situation where I didn't like my job and these people don't know what they're doing and that sort of thing, it'd be a lot easier. But they're just fantastic people, and honestly, that bleeds right over into the community. We have great support here in Northport for the police department, and I guess again, the good news with some of that is I get to still serve them just on a broader level.
You know, give your impression of to the citizens of your term here, and how it's advanced. This isn't the department it was when you started.
Well, let's see. If I had to guess, in 2015, we were probably at about 60,000 and change residents. Now we're getting close to 100. So that's just, our citizens. And then from a police department standpoint, we've pretty much kept pace with that. We've probably grown by a third during that time as well. And certainly a lot more officer. I think probably we had around 100 sworn. Now we've got 150 something. And then, some of the support staff. People forget about, the support staff behind the scenes a lot. Just to help keep up with whether it be records or dispatch or whatever the case may be. I mean, that has to grow too. So big changes there. And then and then there's the stuff you see, like finally getting Price Boulevard going, and now our Welland Park was kind of just getting going after years of knowing it was going to get going, and really a city within a city to a degree, and just to see all of those improvements. But it's still a very small town feel with it. Just a lot more people involved, but still a lot of the things are, the government kind of works the same way, and we still have police officers out trying to do the right thing every day.
You brought Brittany into it, and I've interviewed her, and I'm I got to tell you, I to have your team now being led by her. I think you are comfortable with that, and I've talked to her, and I find her to be amazing, and what she's bringing to the whole communication side of things. Just like I think the same thing about Jason Bartolone and what he's doing and his team, and I don't know that we have a better group of people to drive this information to the citizens, because you're right, we're limited on scope on TV, we're limited across the board, but they're trying to find every way, just like you did, to communicate out with even small little snippets and different educational pieces that engage with people on social media. It's got to be such a tough thing not to have a stable, TV station or radio station or anything close by that you can kind of get some help.
Well, Northport's a perfect demographic for social media. I mean, I think
it is.
That median age keeps growing a little bit, but we're probably, if I had to guess, probably around 48, 49. And, they are, with that median age, these are people that have utilized social media for an extended period of time. And then you have, some retired folks who have time to be on social media a little bit more, and people are just involved. But back to your initial point is, it really starts with leadership, and it starts with people that understand the value in interacting with the residents. And I put Jerome as our city manager. I put Chief Garrison and Chris in that regard. They my job would be much more difficult if they were like, it's just social media, they're going to say whatever. But, there's a real focus on transparency and getting that information to folks unfiltered. And, for example, like, our our monthly one of these with you. And, I don't know that every agency does that. And, just understanding its value of communicating with residents wherever they're at. And so it starts with them and them understanding the value. And that makes it just so much easier to do. I mean, we are fortunate here in Northport, Jason's background and Madison and some of these folks, they all have journalism backgrounds. And to me, I find that to be very important because there's a level of ethics and a level of professionalism that comes with that, having been on the other side of things and understanding what the media needs and giving them the respect that, it's the media. I get it. They're about as popular as lawyers, when it comes down to it, but
Yeah.
understanding their needs and their value in helping you get information out accurately. It starts there. Not that they're the enemy. Look, they have a job to do. They're not always going to come and, say how wonderful you are. And that's fine. Just do it with fairness and with truth. As long as you do that, I don't think you'll ever have an issue here, because you do have people that care about that at their core. So, having that pedigree with folks, it really does make a huge difference.
You brought the media side into it, and as far as and a major word you used, I think, ethics. I don't think people put value on that word as much as they should anymore. I think they throw words out when people are trying to be ethical, and they're really being transparent, and they're really doing all of these things that people are craving today. And, it's not everybody in our city, and it's never anybody in one single city. There's always a group that's out there that has these things going on, and it's like everything else. And you've been through ABC, you've been through all these things, and I'm kind of curious now. You threw the word out there, but how do you interpret the ethics of what you've been a part of? My respect for you is off the chart, just like it is with a lot of our leaders, because I find them to be very ethical.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And the only time I ever get frustrated is when somebody says something that's factually untrue. I can tell you that the people here are doing the right things for the right reasons. When it comes to the public, it's highlighted now because you have the access to social media, but there's always groups who have agendas or whatever, and that's fine. I don't begrudge any of those people. I think at their core, they want to get information out and get truth out there. Sometimes I think their truth can be a little skewed, but that's really on the responsibility of the viewer or the listener or the reader to make those decisions. I think, one, we don't want to live in a democracy where the government's just telling you this is the facts and take it or leave it. So I think it's okay that people question those. Hopefully they have an open mind when it comes to those things, and understand when it's appropriate to potentially give a hard time or not. So I don't begrudge those things. I think it's the dangerous thing I think that's out there is when people only search for information to back ideas that they already have. And I think it's always helpful to have an open mind and understanding where the information's coming from. Do your own research, get some real facts, and then make up your mind. I think when people just go to they just kind of block themselves off just with like-minded people, and they just can't get off of maybe a thought that they have, that's when it gets a little bit difficult to deal with, and then you present them with the truth, and they either just don't believe it, or try to skew that information to their own beliefs, and so that can be a little dangerous. But that's on us all. That's on us all to understand where the information is coming from, and not just take it for gospel. Gather as much information as you can, and then formulate your own opinion would be my advice with that stuff.
So another really close friend of mine, and probably yours too, Lenny Hills. Hey, Lenny, how you doing, buddy? Just throwing some kudos out to you. It's up on the screen. Amazing job bridging the gap with the community and his character and his ethics. You throw that word out there and you talk about character. You throw all these things at you. It's not special. It's who you are. That's how you're built.
Well, and first of all, I appreciate those kind words. I'm going to blush here. But, being you get into journalism because you want to help people, and I think journalism to me, having 13 years at ABC7 was the best education in life I think that anybody could ever ask for, because you're taken out of your comfort zone and you're put in situations to be very empathetic to people from all sorts of backgrounds and walks of life. And, a lot of times we go through life and we end up in we're kind of in our same circle. They're the same type of people from similar backgrounds, and whether it be through church or your neighborhood or whatever. But when you get into journalism, you're kind of thrown into somebody's living room who's got an issue that might come from a background you have no experience with, and you have to put yourself in their shoes, in their situation, and really be, again, empathy is the biggest word there. So just an unbelievable lesson in life. And then, here's what I would say. If you had a corrupt government, you're not going to hire a bunch of journalists to come work for you who already have these ethics in, kind of ingrained, who, by the way, know all the other journalists. So I think that says something, hey, let's get people who know how to communicate with people. And I think that's something that we've done very well here. And, every day I come to work here, and I'm blessed and I'm honored to tell the story of the people who work here and the unbelievable work that happens every single day that 99% of it nobody ever sees. So that's very difficult to walk away from. But that the ethics of knowing that everything we do is a public record. So you better have your P's and Q's together before you go out there and you say something, because somebody can look it up and find contradictory type of information, and you're not going to survive very long if you're living in a world like that, where you're just polishing something up, or you're just trying to spin a tale, because it can be easily unraveled. And not that you would do that anyways, but it's just almost impossible to do. So why not just do it for all the right reasons and be ethical about it? It makes your life a lot easier. That's how you survive 11 years. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Or longer.
Yeah.
Because you've been at this game longer than 11 years.
Well, when you look at, and I think it's interesting because, in my time leading up to coming here, I had given the city of Northport and the Northport Police Department plenty of hard time about different issues and things going on that had happened over that time. And
yep.
I think that because I handled that with, ethically and reasonably with them, that it wasn't like when I applied for the job here, they were like, get this guy out of here. He's just been horrible. It was, no, this is kind of what we're looking for. So I think that was super helpful. And if I had burned those bridges, I probably never would have gotten this opportunity to begin with.
It's interesting to listen to you, and I find your cadence different. You're very thought provoking when you speak.
Well, I have been through we've been through the fire. There's been plenty of, probably 7 or 8 major storms. major brush fires, obviously the Gabby Petito situation.
Yep.
And I think, I've gotten to the point in life when there's high stressful situations, you're put on the spot, you have to answer tough questions. You just have to just be calm as you can, and understand that there's usually a good explanation for what you need to do, or how we responded to something, or the situation. And at the end of the day, I didn't do it. I mean, it's just trying to get the truth out there, and make sure that we're represented accurately.
Well, that's kind of the hardest thing today, I think. And you kind of hit on it with one, the lack of news here, but two, with social media. I find social media to be a joy and a disaster all at the same time.
I try not to look at it. I understand what you're saying, and I try to. First of all, some things I've gotten pretty callous to. Early on, I'd be like so offended if somebody said something negative, but that's okay. I don't. I know the truth, and I just think overall, I try not to look at something like it's a bad thing. I think there's a lot of good with social media. It's a great way for people to connect. It's a great way for people not to feel so distance in life. You can share things and experience things with people, probably share and experience things with hundreds of people that might not even be in your life at all had social media not existed. And yeah, I mean, I think if you let yourself go down a path of negativity and just, again, dwell within a silo, it can impact you negatively. But I think I think the good outweighs the bad.
I my background, I've got 27 years medical. I've got 13 years being a real estate agent, and my line was always I brought bedside manner to real estate, and you use the word empathy, and I I I look at leadership different. I've been talking at Sarasota Memorial about Duncan Findley and his style of leadership, led by example. He was the CEO when I got hired 25 years ago, when I came down from Columbus, Ohio, from a level 1 trauma center. So I, you connect all these things, and I look at your career in the media side of things, and we're not different in that regard, because I've been programmed to follow leadership and think leadership and drive through leadership, and then also give empathy to patients and buyers, and now I'm doing almost 9 years of communication and I had no vision of doing this, none, like zero. And I've got 9 years invested in trying to help get communication out. So I listened to what you just said about the media side, or the social media side, and so many people get stuck, I think, in one narrative and one group. And I would say don't settle for just one narrative. Broaden your intake, and learn that there's a lot of people out there that have a different point of view, but they're not wrong. They're just different points of view. How do you mold that? You're very elegant in your words, and I'm curious.
I think it's probably a little bit easier for me, good and bad, in a sense of I'm very non-committal. like I'm middle of the road when it comes to politics. I'll vote for one side or the other. I think, politics, obviously, that's the easy, low-hanging fruit there, where people just kind of stick to their side of things, and we can see how messy that's in the public. So, or messy, the reality of it is, for folks. I think for me, with that journalism background, I was always real hesitant to, even in my personal life, to take a serious stand on one side of the aisle or the other. And frankly, there are things that I aligned with on each side, and that's ever changing. And I think it's healthy to not be so stuck. So that part's been a little bit easier for me, but also I can't ever make up my mind when it comes to anything. So that makes it a little bit difficult personally. But I think it's good to have someone like that in some of these positions where there's no agenda in the background to that you're working towards.
I agree. And this new job you're taking, where do you see that going, and how do you see that staying connected to the city of Northport?
Well, so the job I'm taking is I'll be the assistant director of communications for the county. So I'll have a handful of PIOs and their website, their video channel where they do the meetings, and have some people there to help. And I think we touched on a little bit. I'm kind of at a point in my career where I can help others achieve things, and you're going from roughly 95,000 residents to 400 and something thousand, with a quarter of them being in Northport. And certainly the times where people see that the most are during major natural disaster type events. So some of that information when a hurricane's coming starts with the county and trickles into the city and into other people. So to be at the forefront of that will be helpful. Obviously, Northport holds a special place in my mind, so we'll make sure that there's plenty of information related to Northport during that. But to have that team, to have that ability, a team full of Britneys, to be able to get that information out. And I think the credibility of, my experience, I was born and raised here, so I know this area like no other. I've seen all the changes over the last 40 plus years of life, and to understand what is important to people in this community and in some of the other communities, I think will go a long way in making sure that that information gets out and is taken care of. So I'm looking forward to that. Again, missing the people here is the hardest challenge with that. But again, I hope I won't be a stranger for sure.
And I actually find what you just said very exciting for us, because 25 years ago when I moved here, we were not as we are today. We were
the redheaded stepchild of Sarasota.
I was afraid to say it, and I love that you did.
I knew where you were going.
Yeah.
So I think I think what you're getting is, having some of that. I've heard that. We've all heard that over the years. Yep. It won't be forgotten by me. So that's I think that's great news for Northport.
It's having family. It's having family where we've never had it before.
Yeah. Well, yes and no. Think about it. The person that hired me as the first PIO here at the city was Jonathan Lewis when he was a city manager, and now he's the county administrator. So,
right.
I think some of that has changed already. Mr. Lewis is a fantastic leader himself, and I think that he carries that as well, as far as having that voice of Northport. I have been here in hurricanes, which I had never seen before, where the county administrator is boots on the ground here in Northport. I've personally experienced that over the years, which I had not necessarily seen prior to, even in my media coverage. So I think there are some good signs. And look, Northport is an undeniable roaring lion. And I don't care if you've spent time here or not, if you on any way, shape, or form are ignoring this city, from a county standpoint, you're not going to do very well.
Oh, you're not.
So I think that would change. It's changed quicker with having some of those voices there, but it's inevitable. I mean, this is really the future of Sarasota County as it continues to grow.
You know, I dare say what we're going to be like when we hit $250,000.
Well,
You know,
interesting to see how quick that happens. They're definitely.
I think it's going to happen faster than they think it is.
Well, I mean, if you look at some of it, I always get I don't know if get a kick out of it probably is not the right word, but I mean, there's obviously growth is an issue, right? And I've seen it all, and I'm not excited about all of it. I, for one, don't necessarily care if it happens or not, but I'll say that it is the biggest issue that's in our area, and rightfully so. There are some concerns that are out there. Northport, in particular, there's not too many cities you can move to that have literally been mapped out since 1960, whatever.
True.
So I mean, the roads, like aliens came down and built asphalt roads to nowhere, and that's been in place for a long, long time. And even when it comes to Welland Park, I was in those meetings in 2002 when that was approved for all those homes. So even that has been on the books we're coming up on 25 years. Now, I think when people get a little frustrated is when you take a large tract of land and that's supposed to have 100 homes on it, and now it's got 10,000. I get that. I get that concern for sure, and I have that concern as well. But there's, it shouldn't be a surprise for people maybe that the busiest intersection, which has been planned for 60 plus years, gets built on. I mean, I think that's, and for the most part in Northport, a lot of these sections have been mapped out for years. It's just not always comfortable to see them come to fruition. And it does change the character of neighborhoods, but specifically in Northport, a lot of them have been on the books for a long, long time.
That's the battle now, is that the realization that our city is becoming a city. And
that was planned. That was planned.
Yeah, that was planned to be a city. And it's not designed like the traditional cities. And so, governance of a city like ours has to be managed totally different than like downtown Sarasota.
There's a lot of challenges in Northport in a sense of, while the city was mapped out, you kind of had a company that kind of set it up that way. And there was definitely some things missed and not, despite the fact it had this plan for all this massive growth, there was just some things that weren't thought out and wasn't
like
set aside. Well, I mean, when you talk about, some of what that vision, like a lot of these economic areas throughout the city, what would that actually look like? And then you speed up 60 years and really how the world works is just different. So, and when you look at some of the challenges with the city's charter and trying to fund some of this growth from a government standpoint is very difficult, to have to save up. It's like, when we need a police headquarters, that issue is not going away. It's a need. It has to happen one way or the other. But to think that you'll be able to set aside enough funds you'll never catch up with how much things cost more in order to pay for some of these things, and to not be able to get the money necessary at today's cost for today's need, it can be really frustrating. That the police headquarters is an issue which is not going away anytime soon.
No, and we sit back as citizens and we hear the conversation, and the reality is, firsthand that that building is full.
My office right here, as we sit, was a conference room uh, that is now an office. We had some media come earlier today, just a new reporter that was in the area to get to know the area. We didn't have a room to have the meeting um, in. So we literally, had to figure something out because we had other meetings going on. That's all the room that we have. Um, every closet's been turned into an office, storage offices. We have portables coming in the next 3 weeks, in our back parking lot. Now we're not going to have enough parking spots. And that's today. That's, the current need. And we've been talking about it for the last 8 years at the need. So, I don't know. I mean, I think maybe when people start seeing the police department working out of portables along Sumter Boulevard, maybe it will strike a chord of some sort, and hopefully we can figure something out here.
Well, and I'm gonna throw Chris Morales's comment back up there because I was texting Chris last night about you coming on, and I still get chills knowing you're leaving. And like I said, I'm excited for your future, and I know Chris is going to miss you, and
Oh, he's been a
at the same
nightmare. He's been a
time,
nightmare through this
he's
process.
super excited about your future.
Chris, nobody.
He's what?
He's been a nightmare. He loves me. I love him, but he has not been very happy that I'm leaving. I did notice he had a spelling error, which is so apropos for
Yes, he did.
When he put a comment up. I can't wait for him to come in here when we're done. No, again,
He's probably knocking at your door right now.
He's been my biggest champion throughout my entire time here, and I've known Chris. I've known Chris for a long, long time before working here. We kind of knew people through similar circumstances through the Old World restaurant and back in the day with that. And again, nobody cares about this city and this police department more than Chris, and I've always appreciated that about him. And yeah, he's given me plenty of hard time over the past few months as I've gone through this process. And but I know at the end of the day, it was just all out of love.
Yeah, and Bobby Shoddy, congrats, Josh. Bobby Shoddy's going to share this all out there too, and thanks, Bobby, for commenting. You are loved in our town, and I am so thankful that you're going to remember your roots and work. I think extensively to grow us even bigger than we have been at the county level, and having relationships at county matter, no matter what positions they are.
Well, you just do the right thing, right? And I think that Northport will be on the forefront. I appreciate your words of love. I'm sure not everybody feels that way. You do this long enough, not everybody's thrilled with it, and I'm sure there's some people that are gonna be like, "Good," but that's okay. They probably just don't know me or whatever. Again, that's okay. I'm proud of the work that we've been able to do. I'm proud of the situation that we're in. I'm happy with with Brittany and everybody who's here to pick up that torch and carry it on. I'm comfortable with that. I'm excited about the future, and who knows, what the future holds. Maybe I'll come back someday or whatever. I'm certainly not opposed to that. I am gonna miss the chief and the rest of our admin a lot, and that's gonna be it's gonna be difficult to walk away from for sure.
So I'm gonna ask you a different question because we have you covered a lot of this stuff, but my curiosity is more on a personal level. Who is the leader that helped develop you? What book, what author, what is something that you've read that, like I have John Maxwell, who I've sat with and talked to years ago, but is this still a big influence on what I do with leadership? And I'm an Anthony Robbins kind of guy. I'm the rah rah. I find that stuff to be really mind clearing and building. Who is something that, or what is something that inspires you on a personal level?
Well, I'm a big life experience person, and sometimes you learn from people on how to do things. Sometimes you learn on how not to do things. Um, Fortunately, here I've had great leaders. I've had Jonathan Lewis as a city manager who was nobody sees around corners better than him. So I'm looking forward to continuing that as his mentorship. Um, and honestly, I'm excited about what I've learned from Chief Garrison and how his leadership and how he is with people and being able to translate that into the people that I will manage. So I go with that. Just off the top of my head, I would love to give you some philosophical leader that I do, but I've always taken pride in, my grandfather was in Patton's tank brigade and helped liberated the concentration camps. And obviously I wasn't there. I've heard some stories and spent some time with him, and I think that built the bedrock and foundation of being prideful of my lineage and prideful of certainly what he did and what all of those men and women did. But that's just, I don't know, it's weird. It's kind of just something that stuck with me, that I have something to live up to. And obviously what we do is in no comparison, but it is something that I think about a lot. And really, I guess to answer your question, is the leaders that I've experienced here with the city and their mentorship and just treating people right. And if I can do that, I think we'll be okay.
I find it interesting because you named a lot of things. You went back to your grandfather, and I named some authors that were out there, but I just told the story today at the hospital up here at Sarasota Memorial of Duncan Finley, who I was walking from D elevator to C elevator, and he picked up a piece of paper and he was walking towards me, threw it in the trash can. And I said, well, why didn't you tell them to pick it up? And he said, John, you lead by example. He said, if I pick up that piece of paper and I'm the CEO of the hospital, they're going to learn to pick up the piece of paper.
Well, we're all representatives of who we are, whether it be whatever your faith is, or your family. What you do is what people will relate to, what they know about you. And I always carry that as far as from my faith and as a person. And I think I am that guy who's picking up the trash out there from time to time. And you're right, and I kind of learned that from some of those people that I just mentioned. So it's again, at the end of the day, you treat people how you want to be treated, and it's not that hard.
And I'm going to say it to you because it is 3:54, and when we started this, you said, what are we going to talk about for 55 minutes? And it goes quick, but I'm not going to tell you you're going to be missed. I'm just going to thank you for your leadership. I'm going to thank you for being a part of the insight for me to grow, because I really have a lot of respect for you. I watch how you carry yourself. I'm trying to mimic some of the things that you do, because like I talked about, your cadence and your thoughtfulness and your precision of dissecting the conversation. I think you're extremely good at it, and I'm hoping I'm learning from you, because I'd love to have a little bit of Josh in my life, when it comes to that. So
I appreciate your kind words. You've been a great supporter of what we've done here, and that does not go unnoticed. And hey, when you want somebody from the county on to talk on your show, you just reach out, and we'll.
oh no, you're on the calendar. It's
Okay.
coming. So
Fair
it's not, you're not going away. So we're expanding. We're wrapping our arms around people, and the most important thing I think that I see in you is the same thing I do, and it's I don't need to be drugged down. I'm ready to lift things up, and we're lifting our city up. You help do that. Brittany does a great job in what she does. Josh or Jason does a great job in what he does. Our leaders, you talked about our leaders. They are forward thinkers. If you want to change your life, get around people who are forward thinkers. This negative pull, there's a reason it's a negative pull. You can listen to it all, but go ahead.
I'll say this with, just with certainty, having, with a journalist's eye, but having a really inside look and experience inside the government here, is there's just, you see the comments out there that government's corrupt and, they're doing this or doing that. I mean, you can believe me or not believe me, but the reality is that I've seen the people in the work that they're doing to better this community, and I'm very comfortable in what they're doing and how they're doing it and what they're trying to do. There's just a lot of good people doing a lot of good work for the right reasons. And again, believe it or not, but it is taking place. I get to witness it every single day. The residents of Northport, hopefully not going. Sometimes I think that they stress themselves over what they think might be going on, and I don't see it. I see good work by good people every day, and hopefully that means something to somebody, and that they can maybe feel a little bit more comfortable in their local government.
Yep, I agree. I get inspired every day when I said this because every time I come to City Hall, I kind of feel like you guys see me coming, and it's always an embrace. And we don't, like I tell people all the time, you don't have to agree with government, but when you disengage from it because you think they're bad people, that's insane. I just, you gotta know your people. You gotta know your players. People like you, people like Brittany, people like Jason, our leadership across the board. You've had firsthand experience at not just, gosh, you said 11 years of on call.
Yeah.
Like there's a value in your statement because of that. Yeah. You have more credibility in your voice than a lot of people do.
It's healthy to have skepticism. It's healthy. I don't think you should give anybody a free pass, but
no.
I think that, when you come in, take part. We've got our Citizens Public Safety Academy coming up. I mean, you'll really get to know what takes place in that, 13-week course if you're interested. And I can tell you, almost every person that's ever taken like that class and gotten to know people and see behind the curtain, if you will, they come away with a totally different perspective. And I've gotten 11 years of it, so I've really gotten a perspective of it. And I think that, you quickly realize it's not the big bad monster under the bed. It's just regular people trying to do the right thing and with sometimes limited resources. And it can be a challenge.
I can't even imagine with our hands tied like they are financially, running a city this size and planning for the future. It's called that's almost like a double whammy.
Well, it's not
And
always, you have to prioritize. You have to triage. You have limited resources. Look, I know these 30 things need to be done, but we can probably get, this much done. So I get it when people get frustrated that things take longer or haven't been done, and it's a big city, 104 square miles, and there's lots of needs and, infrastructure and all that good stuff. It's not an easy fix all the time.
well, it's 4 o'clock, and you know what? We got our 55 minutes in, and I think we did it with a lot of grace.
I
And,
appreciate
and
it.
I look forward to contacting you at the county and having you on and learning how that connection is really going to embed Northport even further into the county level, which will ultimately take us to higher places in the state. So I'm looking forward to it.
Well, we appreciate you, John. I appreciate the opportunity to kind of say what's going on. I'm sure some people are like, "Oh, he's leaving. There's an issue." No issue. Just the personal growth, and we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Well, I appreciate your time. I'm glad you came on. I'm glad you took the opportunity to come on like this, and always look forward to talking to you. And I can't wait to talk to you more because I know it's going to be nothing but greatness coming our way and the county's way. So we all have to embrace that moment and thank you and send you on your way. But know that you're anchored right here in our hearts.
Appreciate it, John. Ditto.
All right, brother. Have a good day. You guys, I will try to be on Friday. I do have a loved one that's in the hospital, and I've got to go back up there. Things are okay, day to day, but we're doing our thing. So you guys hang in there, and much love. Take care of our city and take care of the staff. We'll talk to you guys soon. Bye bye now.